Hi, and welcome to the first ever episode of Syrup Shots Gaming's podcast. I'm Tyler, and with me today is Phil, Dave, and Chris. And we're excited to kind of start this podcast off. Unlike other podcasts which goes over the news, ours is going to be more topic related. Where each episode we're going to have 1 to 2 topics where we'll go over our thoughts and opinions on the gaming industry, what we'd like to see, what we don't want to see anymore, transactions. So, but to start off with, we're gonna introduce ourselves and introduce our gaming history. So, Phil, why don't you take it away?
Sure. So the first thing that really comes to mind whenever I talk about when I first get into video games was Christmas of, I think it would have been 1991 or 1990, whenever the very first Ninja Turtles came out on NES. And that was also the same year that my brothers all got the uh, collectors for all the Nintendo gear, like the cabinet. We had the NES. We got like different various video games. That was kind of my first really big introduction to video gaming, and it kind of just grew from there. Video games during Christmas kind of became a recurring theme in our family. That was the best time for us to get new games, since money was kind of tight for us back in those days. But it just kind of kept expanding. We followed every console after that. We were a huge Nintendo family for a while, then we just kind of grew from that to Xbox and PlayStation and PC. Just kind of kept going.
Very nice, Dave.
Hey, I'm Dave, and my gaming journey, really, we always had video games in the house. I mean, even when, I was first born and growing up, Dad had an Atari 2600. Now, that was his, but even then, some of my earliest memories is, just working that little control stick and the one button. And then I can distinctly remember on my 6th birthday, um, I got a Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, what I didn't know at the time was that gift was for me, but also for my dad. So, because he played games, after I went to bed, so it was a gift as much for me as it was for him. But I remember the two games I got the Super Mario and Duck Hunt uh, double pack cartridge, the
Oh,
two in
yeah.
one,
Mhm.
and then which came with the system, and then I also got the original Castlevania. And at 6 years old, I can now tell you that I could only get to level 3, and I can now tell you that replaying that without completely dying and having to, like a restart or a continue, I can now tell you that at 35, I can now get to level 4
Ooh,
and then totally die.
that's called
Um,
personal growth.
yes, yes. But no, so we always had games in the house, and it was always something that I was really interested in. But not so much until the 3D years hit.
Hmm.
That was when it went from being, oh, this is a fun time to have, till this is my favorite form of entertainment. Um, because that was like the last time I can remember, or maybe even the only time where the jump in graphics was just so much that it blew my little like preteen mind.
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a giant perspective change. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my
Literally 2D to 3D.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's honestly not too dissimilar to I guess my background. Truthfully, I brought a prop. This was my
Oh,
very
Ah,
very
nice.
very first game system. This was my Nintendo Game Boy. Yeah, my first game was Tetris because that's what I wanted when I was little. But I think yeah, with the launch of the original PlayStation and jumping into the 3D world, that's when I think I really became a hardcore gamer. With
Mhm.
and in particular, the game I credit for that would be Final Fantasy VII, as that was a such an important game for that console and for bringing pushing that generation forward.
Oh yeah. I guess for me though, then it would be two in that. Well, of course, Super Mario 64 was kind of like the groundbreaker for 3D that
Yeah.
showed you what you could do. And then the one for me though, then for like world building would have been Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. I'm kind of similar with that. So my first memory of gaming was one of my birthdays. I got a Super Nintendo with Street Fighter 2, classic fighting game. And I also remember, so I had a little CRT TV in my bedroom, and that's where I hooked up the Super
Lucky.
Nintendo. What?
I say lucky because my parents wouldn't let me do that until I was 18.
Well, the only problem with that was whenever I'd wake up to my dad playing it when I was trying to sleep.
In your room.
Yeah, he's just sitting at the end of the bed playing, and I like, hey, Dad. He's like, oh, I didn't mean to wake you up. Go back to sleep. Can I play? No.
No, you got school tomorrow.
Yeah. So my
You
love,
get work.
my love started off early, and kind of like Dave, it started off very arcadey fun. I liked 2D platformers. I liked fighting games. I loved fighting games. My three most played games on my Super Nintendo were Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Um, and it wasn't until the Nintendo 64 where Ocarina of Time showed me that games can be more than just arcadey. They can be a different way to tell a story. They can be a
Mhm.
different way to experience something that you wouldn't normally experience yourself. And I just remember the first time I beat the first dungeon, the Daiko Tree, and went
Mhm.
into the world and how it just opened up to the giant field, which now is itty bitty. But back then, my mind was blown. I was like, how is this a thing?
Mhm.
It's funny when you see those older games and like those small little improvements they were making. I can remember playing Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, and me and my brothers were freaking out because the arrow stuck in the wall. That's something as simple as that
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
We would
Yeah,
look at it and go, "Oh, well,
Right.
look at these effects! Oh, and the arrow—that's so much good detail." Like that's actually common now.
for me, it was like when in Majora's Mask when I was realizing Link's leaving footprints in the mud.
So
Yep.
my big one of that was actually the GameCube era with Metroid Prime, where you could see your face in the reflection.
Oh yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I
Or
was like,
your hand through the X-ray visor.
yeah,
Under the
exactly.
gun.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was so cool. Well, guys, oh, sorry, Dave.
Oh no, I'm just thinking it's kind of funny though. As we're talking about our history, we're also still kind of. It's funny, but we're also mirroring the old playground arguments of which was better,
Yeah.
Nintendo, Sony, or Sega. And I just find it funny that it seems like that still repeats itself, even though God, 20, 25 years later. I mean, I started a Nintendo kid, and then I was very bought into the Sega does and what Nintendo don't, uh,
Hmm.
and got a
Mhm.
Sega Genesis. And then only to come to find out that that's true, which means Sega does what Nintendo don't, which means make a good game occasionally. So I switched over to the
Oh,
Nintendo 64. Let's
you
admit,
know,
Sonic
Sega.
3, Sonic 3 was fire, but any Sonic game after that has been hit or miss.
Sure.
Mostly miss.
However, Sega is having a pretty good resurgence in certain the last couple of years.
Oh yeah,
Not
Yeah.
not with Sonic, but
yeah,
I wouldn't be so sure about that. Sonic Mania was amazing.
that was a good game.
that
I'll give you
was good. That was yep.
They finally realized what Sonic fans wanted was just another Sonic Sega Genesis game.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, thank you for joining today. Excited to start this up. Hopefully, we can do some form of this about once a week, and not all of us will be on. Sometimes we'll have other people, but it should be a good time. So,
Hmm.
without further ado, let's get into the first topic, our favorite game of this sunsetting generation. So, Xbox 3 or the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, they're kind of going the way of the dodo right now with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X out now. So I think it's a great time to kind of look back and see what our favorite games were this past generation and why. So we're actually going to start off with Chris this time. Chris, favorite game of this
Sure.
past generation and why?
So this last generation, I think you could call it like this was the generation of the open world action game, and what better game to pick that for me kind of embodied the big pushes forward in the that genre than the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now, clearly there are some other games that are in that genre that do some better things. However, I feel that it kind of out Bethesda when it came to the action role playing experience.
Oh
That
man.
is one I still need to play. I haven't brought myself to play Witcher 3 yet. And I know
Mhm.
we talked
Yeah,
off
same.
camera, Chris. One of the things that I tried it once. I picked it up and the controls felt a little floaty. Like it wasn't 100% precision. And I guess that's just my background with things like fighting games and racing games where a microsecond difference can make all the difference. Whereas with
Sure.
this, you have to be a little more pre-planning what you're going to do because your character's not going to do it exactly the second you do it. So,
hmm
what are your thoughts about that with the game?
Well, that didn't bother me at all because I basically kind of played it like a traditional like role playing game. A lot of what I liked about it was the fact that you had to prep for your battles, right? Especially some of the most fun things that you do is go do like the big hunts, right? You're gonna go hunt a vampire, you're gonna hunt a dragon, and you'd actually go build out like your book, and you'd kind of like how Monster Hunter works actually, right? You go, oh
Mm-hmm.
hey, I need to bring this tonic, they're weak against this oil. You can develop potions and things that you can put on, your blades as well as drink yourself to help prepare for the battle. So precision, I mean, it was good enough.
Fair enough. Dave, Phil,
Yeah,
any questions, thoughts?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not one of who has played The Witcher, and this just goes to me personally, but I have a real hard time picking up stories in the middle of
hmm
stuff, and that's just a personal preference. It's not like I don't think I could. Like like sometimes you read like a Batman comic and you're like, oh, I have no idea where this is in the continuity, but it's fine, and I could
Sure.
do that. But I know there are two Witcher games that came before three, and I would like to have those under my belt, but I have yet to want to go to the time sink commitment that I know that is going to be.
Well, not only that, but like the original Witcher's locked to PC. That's the only place you can play it. You can play Witcher 2 on Xbox or PC. Um,
Hmm.
and then Witcher 3 is, playable on everything. And I get that. I admittedly I have not played Witcher 1 or Witcher 2, and it was interesting when I first booted up the game because your choices that you make in those games actually impact kind of they do like the Mass Effect thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Right? So I'm here making choices like, I don't know who the hell this character is. Well, I guess I'll do this, right? Yeah, I killed this person lived, whatever, right? It didn't mean anything to me. And
that guy's a
it
jerk.
it might have had I played the previous games, and I think eventually I'd like to go back and play it. All that said, I still really enjoyed the game, and I felt like it had a self-contained story, which really isn't all that surprising, seeing how the source material for The Witcher, they're all short stories, right?
Hmm.
And if you read them, I've actually started reading them actually, and it's not always 100% clear where it's on the spectrum of his life. And Geralt actually has lived a very long time, so
Hmm.
there's hundreds of years that are in that time span, and you can kind of pick out the events based off of like the history of the world of
Okay,
where it fits for his life.
Hmm.
I got you.
and that they kind of did that in the show too on Netflix. Was that you
Yeah.
never really knew where you were on his timeline. They just kind of go back and forth, and it kind of comes full circle at the very end.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, so that's like that has been the only reason that like I haven't touched the Witcher games, but even then, I love the idea of the Geralt's character. Like, I know that like he has the two swords. You know, one's for killing people, one's for killing monsters, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. So it's like either like an enchanted or a silver sword, and then like. And then when the Witcher DLC for Monster Hunter came out, you know,
That was good.
that was good. I was all over that, and it's just also like it's funny in that it works, but it shouldn't. Because even though Monster Hunter is a game about killing monsters, there's really no magic in that game at all. It's all like biology for these monsters. Why can he shoot, ice? He has like a freezing sac in his throat. Okay, thanks, anime biology. That works. Oh, so those are my thoughts. Phil, you got anything else?
For the best game, it might be because I just finished it, but my favorite one from last gen's got to be Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh.
Ghost.
And for a very
Ah,
specific reason, like not just like the story was great, the combat was smooth, it was solid, it was consistent. But what I really appreciated about it was that it didn't just have one good story; it had several.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
whether
yeah.
people liked those
Sure.
stories or not, they were pretty well planned out, and I thought that was very interesting. Like I found myself doing as much as I could for the side quests because they had their own story. I wanted to see how they ended, and I don't do that as much. I usually like to finish as many side quests as possible, but I'm not usually that invested in completing it. So that was definitely a personal favorite.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
go ahead.
well, I mean, I'm playing it now currently. Maybe we'll discuss to our listeners what we did for New Year's here at the end. But
Okay.
on a recommendation from Chris, actually, I made my game of the new year. The first one I played was is Ghost of Tsushima, and I will fully admit, between today and yesterday, I've put at least 10+ hours into the game, and have only finished Act One as of this
Jeez.
afternoon. So, um,
Nice.
but no, I'm loving it, and I'm also just really enjoying like the world that they have built. It is an excellent historical fiction that you're just like I had to sit there and I'm like, was there a Khotan Khan? And I'm like, no, there wasn't. But it was one of those things. It's just like they've done so much homework that it's just like, was that
Yeah.
really real?
Well,
And
they've done such a great job of grounding it in that what at least how I would imagine that world would look like, not
Mhm,
only from like a realism standpoint, but even like what they believe, right? And how
mhm.
dedicated they are to their honor system and all the like the spiritual, like very Japanese spiritual beliefs that they have.
And I like that those are subtly hinted at. Like, you have these side quests to find the this ancient armor that was gifted by a god, and you're like, there's not a whole lot of mysticism in there, but even then, the parts that are in there, that's kind of it's not heavy-handed, but it's just like, did a god just grant me a Deus Ex Machina here? Like, I'll point it out. Hopefully, this isn't a spoiler alert or anything. But I hope Chris and Phil, you've done this mission. But the one where you learn the Heavenly Strike
Oh
and have
yeah.
the sword
Yeah,
duel in the thunderstorm,
yeah.
I was just like, did I just get granted a Deus Ex Machina by a god? Because that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in that game with
Mhm.
those old style battles. It was really well done. I thought the artwork especially was just spot on.
Well, and that game just oozes style.
Yeah,
Um, it
Mhm.
really does. And actually, I will admit that I think that that game in particular, and it's almost unfair because it came out like literally this year or last year, but
Mhm.
yeah,
they their open world design and how it pushes the player to do more exploration as opposed to do the traditional open world design where it's, hey, go climb that tower and like see all these icons on your map and go do them, right? Like the
It's more like
checklist.
the Breath of the Wild style now, which has become rather popular. It's just like, hey, you
Yeah.
could go this direction, but you could go
Well,
this direction.
even to the point that you don't have like a HUD, like a compass or anything like that, right? Like you're following the wind, right? And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I even liked how they explained why that was. Like they made that a part of the world too and their
Mhm.
world building.
Yeah, and again, that could point to like the mysticism part in it that's
Hmm.
not heavy-handed, but kind of a light touch, like a safecracker.
So, question for you three, because I haven't played it at all yet. How does the combat feel? Is it like, what game would you kind of compare the combat to?
Oh God, it's like an Akira Kurosawa movie. It is
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah,
I'd say
that's
it's probably some of the
clearly.
most, it's some of the most realistic combat aside from a few things. The one thing though I have noticed that has only taken out my immersion from this game though, as I'm doing all these lightning quick sword moves, I'm just like, that guy's arm would have gone fleet, way over there, and that doesn't happen in this game. It has its blood, but it doesn't do like limbs flailing, and it doesn't do also like the traditional Japanese theater blood spray where it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
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 No, I was watching YouTube videos of it actually earlier today, and when playing the game, because I was so focused on actually like doing well in the combat, it's hard to appreciate all the subtle animations. And when you're watching someone else do it, I'm like, man, this game is so good. It looks so good, even in combat. In
Again,
specific for like I think the thing that they nailed and what made me excited about the game before it even came out was how they did all the like parries, right? Like when you're attacking with your sword or someone's attacking you, right? You know, actual real sword combat, you're not just going to stand there and hold it, right? You're actually going to push the sword away from you. And they animate that beautifully and it plays well.
Yeah, and
mhm.
it connects and it's smooth and the timing's really well. Like it,
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed that it didn't take Game of the Year, but like it was still really solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
It was player's choice for game of the year though.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole other podcast. I think where it is The Last of Us 2 and how it took Game of the Year for people's choice. Like I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Mhm. I haven't played Last of Us 2 yet. I have it. It's in the backlog, but and luckily I haven't had it spoiled for me yet either. So keep your mouths shut, people. But I do know that there was an event or something, an occurrence that has made some people mad and some people just indifferent. So we will see when I get to it.
Yeah, I mean, when Joel's just clubbing those baby seals.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I'm
that
not.
happened so much in the last game.
Emotionally, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, oh,
who, who,
oh, oh.
oh, who's joining?
We have a
I
challenger.
figured it
James!
out.
Hey.
Yay! Welcome,
Norm!
James. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
So, right now we're kind of in the middle of going over our game of this last generation. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about your gaming history.
I am tenuously hanging on to my gamer card with 2 kids and just chaos reigning. I occasionally get to play my Switch. If I'm lucky, I get to play on my PS4, although that's probably about once a month. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. Now, in the past, I really would put in the hours, but lately I've just been doing what I can.
Fair enough. Well, Chris
I'm
introduced.
probably closer to Butters playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure at this point.
Nice.
All right. Well, Chris and Phil have introduced their games of the year. Um,
Games of the generation.
or
You mean?
generation. I'm sorry,
Oh,
games of the generation.
yeah.
My apologies. My apologies.
Yeah.
Um, well, James, what's your game of the last generation?
Hmm. Hmm. Breath of the Wild. I was just
So let's try to exclude
the
Nintendo because Nintendo's Switch is still kind of going on. We're looking more at
fair enough.
like
Okay.
Xbox,
If you want to
PS4.
include, yeah, or if you wanted to include Nintendo, I guess their last generation would be the Wii U.
That's a fair point. Okay,
Yeah,
Fallout 4 then. I really liked building all of my bases and just becoming a walking death tank that just wandered around the desert that used to be Massachusetts.
that's one of the things that's always great about the Bethesda RPGs like that is you can really play however you want in those games.
Mhm.
You can build any type of class or whatnot. Um, Now, out of curiosity here, did you play with any of the mods? Because I know Xbox and I think PlayStation allowed like mods on their versions.
Not many. Uh, when I was playing it, they just allowed mods, and there weren't that many. And the ones that were there may have crashed more than they were successful in getting things going.
Well, to be fair, Thomas the Tank Engine needs to crash.
Or too many Macho Man Randy Savage Sky Dragons or things like that.
Ooh, yeah!
Yeah.
Snap it to a Slim Jim.
So, has everyone here played Fallout 4?
I have
Yep.
not. I played 3 and all the DLCs, and I played all of the main story of New Vegas, which I loved. And I started the DLCs on that, but then I got into 1, and it's just started to get into this repetitive grind, and it got to the point with it. I'm just like, I'm not having fun with this anymore, like I was the main uh, game. So I kind of switched out, and I haven't really touched a Fallout since then.
Yeah, I picked up 4 for a hot minute, and I built up a lot of the settlements. I didn't really go to end game with that one. I kind of side quested for a while, and then I think other stuff came out, and I switched games, and I don't think I circled back to it yet.
And that's one thing I might circle back to because I really did almost nothing with the settlements, and I know that's like a big
Oh,
part of the
every
game.
settlement. Well, I also had all the DLC for Fallout because I got the season pass. So
Hmm.
every settlement had murder bots essentially. That if anything attacked, it was like Fox from
Hmm.
Fallout 3, just like at every settlement where, oh, I think there's a threat. Okay, it's gone now. Heard loud
Liberty Prime
explosions.
must
Yeah,
Liberty Prime must liberate from Chinese communist terrorists. Blam.
pretty much.
Very nice. All right. Chris seems to have dropped off, but I imagine he'll pop back on here soon.
He literally just texted saying that his PC decided to update itself right now. So,
Gotta love
he'll be back.
PCs.
Yep. Uh,
Well, we'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and go over mine here. So I thought long and hard about this because there are some that my brain went to at first, like Destiny 2, but that's more of an addiction than a favorite game.
no,
um,
you're not wrong.
Thinking about my gaming, I I am glad I'm not an alcoholic or a drug user because I'm an addict for loot drops and just come on, one more hit. Give me another
Mhm.
engram. Give me another random encounter with a Pokemon. Let it be shiny, 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 shiny.
Uh,
Just shot of dopamine.
Yep. But I what I actually landed on was a turn-based RPG, Persona 5.
yes.
Oh,
Oh,
I haven't played that yet.
okay. Highly recommend it, especially now that Persona 5 Royale is out.
Mhm.
I haven't played Royale yet, but it's just more Persona 5. So, what I loved about Persona 5 was the style. I have never played a game that just oozed with so much pop and just excitement with every little thing you did. The music was amazing. The Even the menus just looked out of this world. I love all the memes of like people in normal life with the Persona 5 music and the menus popping up around them.
Mhm.
No,
No, oh, sorry, Tyler.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, just that music is amazing. That music hits you in your soul. It is so, uh, you know, the beat, it's technically classified as like acid jazz. And I've like looked up other acid jazz artists, but even then, I'm just kind of, I listen, I'm like, well, this is crap by comparison. Um, and just the plot was very exceptionally well done. And there are just some smart moments in the plot where you're just sitting there. I totally didn't catch that, and then it just is kind of your mind is blown when it comes out with that. And so it was also cool
Oh,
with my job because I teach high school art, and so I have a bunch of students who want to do that kind of stuff, as their art in art class, and so. But I was able actually to win a lot of kids over. When we're first being introduced, like at the beginning of the year, I put that soundtrack on for us to make artwork to in class, and then it's just like, boom, there you go. And it's just like, but Mr. McCausland, you're a gamer? Yes. We can talk about it before and after class, but not during.
Probably a good rule.
Yeah,
Yep.
what's the
solid.
difference between Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royale?
uh, think of it like a director's cut, and you get all the deleted scenes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know you.
There's one more
What do
main
you
mission
mean the
added.
DLC?
it wasn't a DLC originally. It actually adds, because it's based around a kid going to high school. It adds a whole like third quarter to the school that you actually get to participate in and learn more of the plot.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a whole new character, and her whole story is really well done and interesting. So it's like if it's like like a really well done DLC, but without it actually being a DLC. It's just like a re-release remaster of the game, kind of. Well, not
The
like a
be-
Okay.
remaster.
the best example I can give is kind of like going from Super Mario Brothers to Super Mario Brothers on the Super Nintendo in the All Stars collection. It's the same game, but they added so many little things to just enhance the flavor.
Got it. So if one was say $24.50, another one was $59.
I have seen Persona 5 Royale go on sale for $30 a lot.
Yeah, and no question. I mean, I when I got into Persona with Persona 4, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm just like, we can't get better in this series. I was very wrong, but as soon as it came out, I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna wait because I played Persona 4 Golden, which is the same as it is with this. Golden was the longer, more full-fledged game. That's the same with Royal. It's the longer, full-fledged version.
Yeah, because turn-based RPGs are really starting to be better for me as I get older. When I was younger, I used to really rock the first-person shooters and just have all the twitchy reflexes that I could have. But in my sleep-deprived old age, it's just not happening. So
Well,
things where I can just stop and have like it waits for me to do it. That's better for me
well,
nowadays.
it's kind of impressive too. So when I played it first, uh, it was just when I had moved to Kansas, so money was a little tighter. So I rented it from the library and was able to kind of renew and renew. But there was a point where I had to return it, and it took me a little bit of time before I was able to rent it again. I picked it up without missing a beat. I was just like, it just felt like putting on, the right jacket. You're like, oh man, this feels good, and it's a long game. I didn't do everything, and I played about
All
120
right,
hours
I
in
will
it.
try to when wait for Roy to go down to $30.
If I-
I platinumed Royale. I enjoyed it so much, and I have only platinumed
Wow.
three games in my life, and one of them was Lara Croft Go, which is the cell phone puzzle game for Tomb Raider that they put on PlayStation Vita, and apparently gave a platinum trophy to.
Yeah. Persona 5 was great. I bought Royal and I haven't picked it up yet. So
And now there are going to be weird things in it. I tried to explain the game to my wife, and she just looked at me like I had seven heads. She's like, "Well, what's this game about?" Well, I'm a high schooler who also steals the bad desires of other people, and one of my teammates is a cat who can turn into a bus.
yeah, and the cat's name's Morgana, but the
Yeah,
cat's actually a dude. Yeah,
Yep,
I
yeah,
know.
Oh man.
and
and who thinks he's a
further
Yeah,
human?
proof, yeah,
yeah, that's right.
further proof that whatever drugs Japan has are much better than what we get here in the states.
Yeah, you know, and one
Wasn't
of
that
the
also the one who randomly texted me that your teacher is calling you master now?
yes, it was. Hey,
No
I'm
context to that.
I am going to defend that
You just
because
texted
No,
me that
not
because
randomly one
me,
day.
not me.
because maxing out that relationship allowed me to do a second activity every day, and that was helped me so much with being able to eat burgers.
Or really do anything. Because it was frustrating in that game where you'd have like this major plot event happen and be like, oh, well, you have to go to bed. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
And
nope.
then having that taken care of, being oh, okay, now I can go out and do like whatever, right?
That should be a subreddit. No content. No context. Persona 5.
Oh god.
yeah. So, highly recommend it to anyone who gets a chance.
Yeah, I know you guys have
Dave,
suggested it to me a lot. I haven't picked it up yet. Oh, go ahead.
Yep.
no, you go for it.
Okay. For me, gaming, since I'm so into it, and for those viewers, you won't know this. I I'm a collector also. Like, uh, back in the day, it used to be, to get new games. Well, it's still like this for most people. To get new games, you had to trade in your old games to put, money for. At around a certain point, during the Nintendo 64 era, I just stopped doing that because a lot of games I loved and I didn't want to get rid of them on the off chance. Yeah, I probably will play that again later. Like I eventually did get all 120 stars in Super Mario 64. I did try and I got every Jiggy in Banjo Kazooie. So like I wanted to keep those games. So it is now so bad I have to keep an app on my phone to keep track of what I have. And
That's a good
so
idea.
a lot of
Yeah,
people here are mentioning games though that I would pick for the last generation. Like I would say, but it's like it's hard to pick one that is the favorite. But like I would, if I had categories, I would say Persona 5 would have definitely been mine for traditional RPG. Ghost of Tsushima so far, yeah, would win my open world one. But really, thinking about it, really, there's only two that come to mind. One for just one simple reason, but I won't. That won't be the one I talk about. But I would say Super Smash Brothers for Wii U of the previous generation was a favorite just because it basically, well, it laid the foundation for the epitome of it that is Ultimate currently, and just started making Smash Brothers just video games, the video game. So, but that's all I'm going to say about that. But the one that I had to probably say would be the favorite, and it especially helped out, I would say, in certain points in the past few years. Monster Hunter World.
Ooh,
That's a great
such a
game.
good game.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Just for the first part, you could play it how you wanted to. If you wanted to play it single player, you could. If you wanted to play it multiplayer, you could. It is, and it's a co-op game. It's not one where, you're fighting against the other kid. I have come to find out though that I am old enough and can't play as much as like my students even, that getting online in a first person shooter or a fighting game to play against an opponent, I suck anymore. I'm gonna get my butt kicked,
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think the worst it ever was like I was playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3 at an anime convention. I sat down. There was a 13-year-old Asian kid sitting next to me, kicked the living crap out of me in that game. And he was there with his mom, who's sitting there crocheting in the corner. And I'm just like, I'm leaving. I'm done. Here you go, kid. You can have my veteran fighting game king card. I'm done with it. I'm not using it. But Monster Hunter World, though, all of you are trying to literally beat the monster in the room. That is the point of the game. And I love it because it is this crazy world with all these crazy monsters. And I also like that they're like variations of traditional monsters that we would have like in mythology or in history. We have dragons and we've got dinosaurs and things like that. But they all have that very unique, clearly Japanese influenced twist to it that just makes them so very interesting and so fun. And it's also it was just a joy for me to like look at some of these and just be like, because being the art teacher, I kind of analyze how things look, and it's just like sometimes I'm able to pick out, oh well, they based this off of this and this off of this, and just have that bit of fun, and then the weapon system, there's a flavor for everybody in there. You want to play it as a shooter, okay, there's like 2 guns and a bow and arrow in the game if you want to. You want to be a brawler, there's a ton of weapons for you too. You want to be more defensive, okay, you can get like the lance and the sword and shield.
You want to jump around like a crazy person?
Yeah,
how I play the game?
yeah,
You
yeah.
can do that.
I want to play like a long jumper in the Olympics. Pole jumper. Yeah.
That's not an inaccurate description.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty accurate.
Yep. And no, it's a wonderful game. I really enjoyed my time playing with you guys because, especially, I mean, the game came out now 3 years ago, and there were plenty of times though where I was working, my crummy job before I got the current one, and it's just I needed that on weekends, because I was working at a hospital and dealing with unruly patients. It was just so nice to relax and you're like, okay, we're going to take out our unused aggression for patients on this Toby Kadachi. All right, buddy, come here. I'm going to kill you.
The only game where you can wear the skin of your enemy and fight a giant pickle.
Yep, quite literally.
Yeah. If you're a gun lancer, that pickle became a weapon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite part
Uh,
of that game actually is the fact that's the whole like loot grind mechanic is you
Mhm.
harvest the enemy to make your armor.
It's quite literally, I'm going to eat your brains to gain your knowledge, but in the sense that I'm going to use your corpse to make my gun, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that hit that dopamine spot for me. It was just like, Daddy needs a new
Yep,
pair of boots.
yep. I need to put a set of ladybug armor. I'm a talking cat. Yeah, that's the thing. And what's even worse, now they're coming out with Monster Hunter Rise, and they're adding dogs, and I'm even more
Oh,
excited for that.
so have any of you tried the demo yet?
I have not.
Not yet.
I've been playing Ghost of
So
Tsushima. How can I fit the demo in?
so good. So I can't believe it's running on the Switch. It's keeping the same frame rates as Monster Hunter World. It's a solid 30 frames a second,
Nice.
and
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
I don't know what warlockery they did, but I'm for it. And I think if I saw correctly, it's got built-in voice chat too.
Oh wow.
Really? They actually have that now for the Switch?
No, not for the Switch. It's built into the game itself.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah, that is something that will help. That's my biggest problem with playing games online on the Switch is having to use that crappy Nintendo Online voice chat. So if it's
oh,
Like
built into, if it's built into the
you
game,
do
it's
what
so
we
much
just
better.
did. We just put like a laptop next to us and load Discord. Play Diablo 3.
yep.
Right.
Yeah, we did do that.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Very diverse set of games.
Mhm.
Not a lot of crossover there, and it's been a good generation. But we can all agree, Cyberpunk 2077 was not the game of the generation.
No.
Uh,
There was so much potential there, and I
Yeah,
didn't
there-
return mine. I kept it just because, like, I'm kind of a sucker for the cyberpunk theme, so I have every intention of playing it when they fix the bugs. But that game kind of fizzled out when it came out.
So take this with a grain of salt, but Jason Schreier from now Bloomberg was doing an article about it and said that the developers were really kind of insisting that the game would be ready in 2022. They felt
Wow.
like it was being rushed by 2 years.
Yeah, I know that we're not wanting to talk about the news, but yeah, I was just that post that they put out, that video where they
Yeah.
apologized and basically, you know, put all the blame on their QA team. That was that was not a good moment. They just need to shut up and fix the game. I know that sounds terrible, but that's what they need to do.
No, they need to
Yeah.
do exactly what No Man's Sky did, which was go
What's that,
go
right?
go
Yeah, I think it went
silent.
quiet
Yeah, go
and
silent.
do the work.
Work, don't work on DLC. Don't work on next gen version. Fix it, and once it's fixed, you can then start your redemption story.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
well,
Kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm gonna wait for it to get cheap, like $20. Then I'm gonna pick it up and then just sit on it because it's not like I can play right now anyway.
Yeah.
And when it gets good and the price goes up, I'll have a game to play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on that note too, I'm like, so the best games of the last generation. What do you think was the biggest flop? I don't know if I consider 2077 to
Ooh.
be the biggest flop from last generation, but I have an idea in my head, but I'm curious what everybody else thinks.
Ooh, good
oh,
question.
so I am going. I've got an answer, and it's not a single game. It's a business decision that has caused so much anguish with the fandom.
I think I know what you're gonna say. It's the same thing I'm thinking.
The EA Star
I
Wars
think I know.
exclusivity.
Okay,
Oh.
different from what I was thinking.
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm very
no,
happy
that
that the way that's all worked
EA.
out, actually, right?
Yeah.
We've got
yeah,
Lucasfilm games now, and
yep.
Yeah.
we're Gonna see what other developers can do with the property.
I was gonna say anything from BioWare this last generation. Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem both just tanked. Who's James? Yeah, I said it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been, unfortunately it happens, right? There are companies that do their fall from grace, right? And I think that BioWare certainly has fallen from grace. Like they're really high in the PS3, Xbox 360 days with Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Even though I can't personally say I'm a fan of Dragon Age, but to coming into this generation with Anthem, Anthem might actually be my pick for biggest flop. That game was so high on everyone's radar. I wanted it to be, because I couldn't really ever, like, I liked Destiny just fine, but I'm certainly not Tyler, right? And my love for that game, I wanted Anthem to be that, and it just never happened.
Yeah, and
So
I remember seeing there were talks of them doing a what's the wording for it, like they were gonna rework the whole thing. They were gonna do a like a revamp patch and just fix everything in once, and they announced that like as the pandemic was growing legs, literally, and then after that, like I guess when was it they announced that they were going to do another Mass Effect, and they hadn't even finished
Seriously, it
the
was
update.
it was it was like a
Yeah,
couple months ago, and the
yeah,
worst part is, like, not only did they show a teaser for Mass Effect, but they also showed a teaser for the next Dragon Age game. I'm like, this is one team. How they're not gonna do all of this, and
I thought BioWare had two offices. I thought they had two
they
teams.
they do ish. The team that made Mass Effect Andromeda doesn't exist anymore.
Aha.
So
yeah. I remember that.
it's there. I don't know how they're orged. I just know that there's something had to get chopped, and I wonder if Anthem, if they basically just gave up on Anthem, because I don't know how they could be making, because I know there's always been a Dragon Age team and there's always been the is it the Edmonton team that makes
Hmm.
the original trilogy? So there's those two, right? So who's, is there an Anthem team, or did they just go away from Anthem, I guess is what I would be wondering.
Yeah, it's a
I-
$1 million question.
I'd be very interested in seeing some kind of a documentary, and I don't know how many years when the guys that were there tell their story of what happened to BioWare and how it crumbled from the inside.
So I am going to disagree with you slightly, Phil. I don't
Okay.
I don't feel like Anthem was the biggest disappointment. I feel because I played Anthem. I played through the whole campaign. I feel like there's a strong foundation there. It
Mm,
just lacked content. It just needed
that's fair.
that it needed that loop, that that cheese to have you go through the maze that kind of draws you in every time. It just didn't have a good
Sure.
one of that. I I feel like that game was at least finished. It just didn't have a lot of content. I am
Sure.
so upset how many games have come out this generation that aren't done, that are just
Yeah.
glitchy as all get out, that are near unplayable.
We were talking about Cyberpunk. What?
Yeah. I was
Uh,
gonna say, remember ET on Atari and how legendary that game became because of how bad and buggy it was, and like
mhm.
that's kind of become like you make a good point. That's kind of become the standard for a lot of games these days, where it'll come out crap and they'll just patch it. There's these day zero patches that you couldn't do 20 and 30 years ago.
Well,
So
sure.
another
There,
game.
there
There's
used to
just a total over reliance on them too
Mhm.
nowadays. It
Yeah.
seems.
there used to mean it used to mean something when a game went gold. Now, with all the day one patches, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
gold just means it's in beta.
Yeah. Early access.
Another
Yep,
game I
yep.
feel that suffered from that this generation, and I'm going to preface this with I love this game. I'm close to platinum it. Is Avengers.
I was actually going to ask you, So on the scale of if you had to like, because they're both live service games, which one did you enjoy more, Anthem, Avengers?
So I like the multiplayer of Avengers better.
Okay.
Although I think it suffers from the same problem that Destiny 2 suffered when it came out. They make you level up so you can get all your skills. Just give it to you up front and just get the equipment that can give you buffs and nerfs and whatnot. I think.
That that would have made playing certain characters a lot better. I think that it takes too long for Iron Man to feel fun to play.
Mm-hmm,
Mhm.
that was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it really wasn't until you hit like level 50 and had everything, then you're like, oh yeah, now I'm playing as the superhero I see in all the movies.
Yeah. Again, love that game. Can't wait for, excuse me, hiccups. More content.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Spider
not
Man.
not fully baked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Oh, sorry. Go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say I feel like I just have more confidence, especially at least at this point, that Avengers is going to be like next year. Avengers is going to be different than what Avengers is right now.
I'm certainly hoping that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
So
I still
go
hope
ahead,
they
Dave.
revamp. I still hope they revamp Anthem.
I'd be curious to try to like. I'm kind of with Chris. Like, I was really looking forward to that as being a unique looter shooter, and I was really wanting to explore that. It looked huge. It looked like a big world.
Yeah, and
But
I liked what I saw about like the flying. Like you could just like kind of jump in and go, and
mhm.
you know
Yeah.
that open kind of world stuff. Flying is still in a game though is still magical to me. I mean, even though Super Mario 64, you get the wing cap. That's still like a magical experience to me when it's just like, oh, you want to fly? Do it. Just choom, and the game just goes. It still brings the childish joy to me, and I just was disappointed after seeing that with Anthem, though the reviews were so bad, and then I was still tempted to get it, but then I saw like not very long after it came out, it was already $5 at GameStop, and I'm like, well, this game sucks. The last time I bought a game that was $5 at GameStop was Battlegrounds. The game that tried to be Overwatch,
Mm.
and
Battleborn.
yeah, Battleborn,
Oh,
Battleborn.
okay.
Yeah, and then I bought it, and then like a month later, when I still hadn't plugged the game in, the servers went offline, and now I have a lovely disc in my collection that does nothing. So I'm just kind of like, well, if it's going to do this, why bother? I can at least keep my $5. I could be like Butters and buy Hello Kitty's. What is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Island Adventure.
yeah, Hello Kitty's.
Yeah,
So
I could put it towards
I
Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival and at least get Isabella and Digby in a box like this.
so Perfect Universe. If they wanted to save Anthem, it would take just one thing: reskin it as an Iron Man game.
You're Iron Man. You're War Machine.
It,
You're
it felt
Ironheart, the girl one.
it felt like an Iron Man game, and you could just
Yeah.
customize it,
It
saying
did.
this is the Mark II, Mark III.
The Colossus could arguably be the Hulkbuster.
Exactly.
Nice. You're. Uh-oh. We got a fourth player. Someone's got to play as Pepper Potts.
The Goop Bot.
well, what's in the comics with
You know, they give her
or
they give her the
Rescue. Yeah.
Rescue, yeah. Can't I play as a Jarvis controlled suit?
Nice. I think for me, the flops of gaming this past one is you suddenly saw monumental creators of games, I'm talking big names, just suddenly do something that landed them flat on their face. I mean, we had Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega
Inafune.
Man as we knew it.
Yep.
Mighty Number Nine, splat, and just that name now means nothing. I mean,
Mhm.
Mega Man 11 was a world's better game than that. And even that one was still kind of like, oh, this is good, but I wish I was playing real Mega Man. And then we had Tomonobu Itagaki, the guy who revolutionized the Ninja Gaiden series back in the PS3 and 360 era. His claim to fame this past generation was Devil's Third. And that game is a steaming pile of something. What happened was, because he's known for his massively huge ego in gaming industry. Like, I was reading an article about him. They interviewed him, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm loving, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I know I would have made it better." And I'm like, dude, your claim to fame is Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, the fighting games with scantily clad women. How are you going to make your version of Ocarina of Time better? Just Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time with boob physics. That's the only claim to fame you have.
Zelda Extreme
And
Beach Volleyball.
exactly. But then he comes out with this adventure game where you play as this like ex Russian Spetsnaz, like special agent guy who's in like a maximum security prison, but his body is all covered with Japanese kanji tattoos, and it makes no sense. And it's just one of those things where he was just talking out of his butt, just like this game's going to be the greatest thing, and it's just like, oh, well, I believe 3 publishers passed on you, and then Nintendo felt sorry for you and bought the game to release it, which they almost didn't do. And now the game is worth much more than it should be just because it is harder to find. You know, and being a collector like me and being a rabid Nintendo fanboy, I still am. I was worse, but I still am. But I had to have it. And also just because I love playing like really stupid Japanese games at times. But that one I'm like, oh, but this is the epitome of stupid.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more Japanese creators enter the indie space. And you mentioned some flops, but I mean, you got Igarashi who made Bloodstained, the creator of Castlevania, right? And
Yeah, that's a success story.
right. So I mean,
What would you guys say then about? That's another thing going along with this trend, though. You had a bunch of creators just leave the company that they created their name on. Like, but would you say like the same was Death Stranding then? As much of a success as like
so I loved Death Stranding. I
Same.
know that that game is not like the giant commercial success that they wanted it to be, but it was so unique. I would love to play another game that implemented multiplayer in the way that that game did again.
okay. I haven't played it yet. Again, I have a really big backlog, but again, that's it was very public the downfall between Hideo
Konami.
Kojima and Konami.
Right.
And then, although in that case, though, I think Konami was the one who fell on their face. Let's release Metal Gear Survive.
Oh my god,
Oh.
Okay, real fast here.
Wait, I did buy that one for $5.
I might have to change my answer for biggest disappointment. Metal Gear 5, biggest disappointment. Metal Gear 5 being as amazing game as it is and not finished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really
I hear
like
there's no real ending on that.
I really like that game, but it's not my favorite Metal Gear game. That's such a weird thing to say.
hmm
I agree though. I judge me as you want. Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite.
That's my favorite.
That's a darn good game.
Okay.
I would say, God, I mean, that's like picking a child. Which child's your favorite of the Metal Gear Solid games, dude? Dang. Well, but I
Not
think,
Raiden.
Just a slice of the
yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then that brings me to a point though,
piece
and
of
why
slice
I
of
might
the
say this. So, I like things that have like a little bit of kitschiness to them, or when they can take something that on its surface is a stupid idea, but then like rework it so the point that it's awesome. So, like, case an example, like things I really like Ninja Turtles. On its surface is a really stupid idea. Oh, there's 4 mutant turtles, and their dad's a giant rat, and they're no ninja, And yeah, that's a dumb idea. But then they've, made this whole world about it and everything. And it's like, oh, that's awesome. Or we've got the series Death Note, the comic series. This notebook, when you write a person's name in it, kills people. That is the dumbest idea I have ever heard. And then you read it and you're just like, oh my God, this is one of the smartest books I've ever read. And I would say then that was why Metal Gear Solid 4 might be my favorite, because there's some kitschy elements in it that are kind of silly, but for the storytelling purposes they were doing, I really liked. Like, Old Man Snake, when I first saw that, I'm like, well, this is going to be a nightmare. That's so stupid. Then it's just like, well, he's not really old per se. It's just his body is aging rapidly because he's a clone,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. Okay, we got to fill him full of uppers and other drugs to keep him going because he is rapidly aging. Hey, you know how you hated Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2, but you know how you love the Cyborg Ninja in Metal Gear Solid 1? Well, we're going to combine the two of them in an attempt to make something incredibly cool. And it worked.
They did the
Yeah.
fusion dance.
Yeah. Fusion!
It
So
was a good game. I liked it, but it was a bit of a Metal Gear Solid 4 is a bit more movie than the rest of the series.
Yeah, well, I would say 2 at Act 3 on 2
Yeah,
was
that's
the
true.
worst.
That one's pretty bad, yeah.
So, kind of going on with your theory there, Dave, of it's so stupid, but if you build the world right and just present it in the right way, it becomes magical. There's a game that's out now that I really want to play that I feel does that. Yakuza Like a
Yeah.
Dragon.
Oh, yes. My brother Doug, who viewers you will know, he was going to join us tonight. He will be one of the other nonsense voices talking to you on this podcast. But he's a big fan of the Yakuza series, and for Christmas bequeathed me Yakuza 0, and I am actually really looking forward to it. But I have now watched a couple videos from a great YouTube channel called Outside Xbox,
Yes.
and yeah, it's a British channel, United Kingdom, a wonderful channel. But one of their hosts is a great Yakuza fan, and so he's made several videos about like the weirdest side quests that you can do in that game. I want to play that game so much just because of the fact that one of the summons in like the RPG system of it is a crawfish, and it like summons a giant herd of crawfish to just pinch and pincher and poke and bite your opponents to death. And I'm like, yep, stupid enough. I'm gonna enjoy it.
And the
So,
slot car racing.
so
There's
real,
what?
Slot car racing in that as well, I believe.
Nice.
so do you know why it's an RPG? Do you know why it's a turn-based game?
No.
So the main character in it grew up loving the Dragon Quest games, so he imagines everything in the world to be like a Dragon Quest RPG.
That's so meta. I
Oh,
love it.
that's amazing. Oh, that's great.
That's
Oh,
the you wouldn't think it works, but if you build it right.
oh, yep. Other things like that, like No More Heroes is exactly like that, but everything's tongue in cheek, and they have a lot of fun with that. That is the studio that does that. I just feel like a lot of them were pulled from the ashes of Clover Studio, who made God Hand, which has like the
Mm.
same level of humor from the PS2 era. It's just like, okay, Platinum Games is going to take all the people from Okami and Beautiful Joe, and okay, Grasshopper Manufacturing, you guys are going to get the weirdos from God Hand.
Eh, all right. Well, going back to the question here, any other big disappointments or?
I because I wait on games, but because my favorite was Fallout 4, and I mean I sunk hundreds of hours into that game, and because I heard it was a live service, I didn't get it. But Fallout 76 was just. I wish
Yeah.
I had eaten my words and bought it because it was good, but it wasn't good. Therefore, I feel glad I did not get it.
Yeah, that was one. I think they actually did patch that one. I think it's better now. At least it's playable. I don't think it's still. I don't know if it's considered good by the internets, but I think it's better than what
They
it was at release.
would have been better off like releasing it as a beta when it first got released. Because I remember when it came out that fall and like around Christmas they were already discounting it for like half price. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is
Mhm.
not good. This game.
Yeah.
There was a post online about a guy who bought it, wanted to return it to GameStop, and the people just said no. You can't return it for like a refund or something, and so he demolished the store over it. Now, on the one hand, okay, jerk move, guy, but on the other hand, understandable.
Yeah, I was gonna say that game did something I felt was truly atrocious. Was before fixing the game, they launched their subscription service to get more loot in the game. $100 a year. It was called
uh,
Fallout First.
I
uh,
didn't know about that.
Yeah, I'm really waiting for the Jason Schreier report that tells us about Bethesda, and I imagine that they had a lot more money issues this
I
last couple of years than I think that's been told to the public.
and that's one of the things where I'm kind of glad that Xbox bought them because now they have the money of Xbox behind them, who's just like, just make a good game, we'll put it on Game Pass. Don't have to have
and
DLC or anything.
it's been
Oh,
interesting though
it's
that all the
almost expensive.
studios. It's interesting. I would
Sorry.
think with Bethesda, it's like Bethesda themselves that have been the troublemakers, but it's been their subsidiaries that have been knocking out the hits because
Mm-hmm.
aren't because they own id, which did Doom and Doom Eternal, both
Mm-hmm.
wonderful games. Tango Gameworks, which was a surprising purchase for me, but they did the Evil Within games, which were kind of sleeper hits, I would say. They're not the ones that everybody's just always talk about when it comes to horror games, but they're always the ones that it's just like, you know, like I'll watch online top 10 hidden horror gems on the PS4, and that game is like always number one.
What were you gonna say, James?
How could they time travel? They keep releasing Skyrim on every system. They have milked that cash cow beyond what should be milked.
They have beaten that cow to death and are still going for more.
There's still modders
Yeah.
on Reddit making stuff on PC. It's crazy.
Well, hopefully they can come out with something good. So,
Mhm.
guys, I think this is a good kind of stopping point for the podcast. But next week's topic, I've already figured one out, and this kind of ties in with Bethesda. So, with the announcement that Machine Games, the makers of Wolfenstein, are making an Indiana Jones game, and Ubisoft is going to be able to make a Star Wars game with the same company, or the same team that made The Division. My question
Mhm.
to you guys for next time is this: what intellectual property would you like to be seen made by a developer that would be a perfect match in heaven without restrictions of, it's a Nintendo company, it's a Sony, just like who would make the perfect Turtles game these days? Who would make the perfect Power Rangers arcade game? Things like that.
All right, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us for our inaugural episode. Hopefully, this goes much better than the actual inauguration in the US next week.
Mm,
Yeah. Stay
Oh,
safe with that, guys.
Yeah,
yeah.
stay safe. Everyone stay safe, social distance, be
Stock
kind.
up on alcohol. Wait, maybe don't put that to show. 21 and over, stock up on alcohol. All the rest of you kiddos, well, figure something out. I mean,
Yeah, just play your Fortnites.
yeah.
All right. Well,
I have a really awesome drug-free way to get soup fudged up.
our
There it
first
is.
beep I get to put in.
That's
Yay.
there
the one
it
that's
is.
PG-13. That's the one that's allowable.
Fudge, the brown chocolate thing.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
Oh, okay, yeah,
listening
sure.
under 21. Now it's bad for your health, but if you stay up super late, things get weird in a
Sleep deprivation. That'll do that.
around 4 a.m. when you're out awake for 22 hours.
A lot of the listeners might already be listening to this at 4 a.m. We're
Yeah, all right.
And then
Go
chug
do.
the Red Bull.
yeah, they're just like, wait, it's 5. What are you talking about?
Yeah, just go to Denny's and do syrup shots. That's what we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah.
Denny's and do syrup shots. So maybe we should tell our viewers where the name comes from. So
Okay.
we have been friends for a long time. Dave, you want to tell it?
Sure, I'll tell it. Well, we all met, majority of us, in high school, and high school now, for most of us, was graduated in '04. Unfortunately, that means the 20-year mark is coming sooner than we would like, and most of our shenanigans in high school seemed to take place usually at my house, my parents' house, because we had a big old finished basement. However, it was not uncommon for us to do like crazy shenanigans, like gaming. We played a lot of board games.
Mhm.
We did a lot of HeroScape at the time and things like that. But with that young person energy that we lack anymore, it would be very common for us to play till like 3 in the morning and then be like, okay, we're hungry for the fourth meal of the day that exists at that point. So the only place that was ever open was the local Denny's, and it was not uncommon for the silly shenanigans to follow us to Denny's. And Tyler has a history of doing dumb food challenges in his youth. There was the ultimate sushi challenge.
You eat a ball of
Um,
wasabi and just
yeah. Well, I saw you do a spoonful one time.
oh yeah,
Just done. And I believe one of those
clears
was
the sinuses.
yeah.
Oh
One of
yeah,
those
it
was
burns real
definitely
Oh,
good.
it feels great.
yeah. One
I
of
do
those
that
was
nowadays. Even.
and one of those was the syrup shots, which happened on more than one occasion. God help that poor waitress that waited on us that night. Uh, you can add more details to that.
Well, yeah, it was just, when you go to Denny's, they give you the pancakes and they give you a little clear glass of syrup. It looks like a shot glass.
Yeah.
So, and to be clear, none of us drank in high school. We were some
Nope.
of the few that didn't. And
Matter of
so
fact, at one party, someone dressed up as a frat bro and brought a beer bong. We were all 18, 17. None of us drank. We did that thing with soda, and
No,
not good soda.
I was gonna say you're being kind calling that soda.
Yeah, this was cheap dollar store swill. So
Bubba
the
Cola.
kind of Bubba Cola was literally its name. The stuff treats you. It tastes slightly better than your own pee, I would say, but Bubba Cola was nicknamed Liquid Glass after a couple times because it was basically can, beer bong, chug. There you go. And we did a lot of stupid stuff. We'll
You
have
know
to tell them the birthday gift stories here at some point.
that's probably be another podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
The fact that we survived our dumbness through high school and are now almost 20 years out of it and decent careers. How?
In charge, and some of us are in charge of children now, or are very quickly going to be.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're functioning adults.
Looking over at James with the two kids.
Functioning, the bar for functioning has been lowered.
Yeah.
All right.
If at first you don't succeed, lower your expectations.
All right.
Just seeing what I did as a kid on the other side now, I've apologized to my parents at least 5 times already.
Does it make more or less sense viewing it from the other side now?
Like I know what they are thinking because I thought it at that age. I'm remembering, but now I'm seeing the other perspective of the parents and the person trying to keep the house intact. My parents had amazing patience. I'm discovering.
Either that or they drank more alcohol than you were aware of.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
there was a 12-pack of Natty Light in the downstairs fridge that stayed there for months.
Yeah, because it was Natty Light.
That explains it.
Right.
And my dad liked the cheap stuff.
Well, on that note, everyone, thanks for listening. If you have your own thoughts on our topic today, biggest highlights or biggest disappointments of the last generation, or on our next week's topic, just feel free to send us an email at syrupshotsgaming@gmail.com or just comment on the podcast. Like, subscribe, hit the little notification, just all those things that people say to get subscriptions because, we want to keep doing this. So thanks. Good night. Bottoms up.